a short time ago in a slideshow right about here. Hello, today I want to tell you a story about how I entered a 107 player tournament for a game I didn't play. That game is Star Wars Unlimited, but you don't need to know anything about it. I'll explain as we go. Let's do this. Alright, so how did we get here? None of this would have happened had it not been for my wife, who came home about a month ago with 2 starters for Star Wars Unlimited out of nowhere. She showed up with a Leia deck and a Palpatine deck and said, we should play this. Pick one. And I picked Palpatine, and immediately fell in love with the plot mechanic, which is incredibly cool. Basically, this is a game where you put resources in a resource zone. You don't have designated resource cards, you just commit cards as resources. And plot lets you be like, surprise, that was actually a secret hand. Here's this cool thing that I get to do out of nowhere. I thought it was dope. It had been a while since I'd actually liked a wizard fight type game, a la Magic or what have you, but we were both super impressed, and SWU cards are mostly pretty cheap if you don't care about bling. So we got more cards with the intent of playing Twin Suns, the multiplayer format. Think Commander in Magic, right? Now, I keep denying the spike allegations, but anytime I get into a new game, I immediately start looking up the competitive scene. After FFG fumbled Star Wars Destiny, which is a game that I've had a long history with, I even ran the scene in our area for a while despite not wanting to, the store basically pressed me into it. And I competed in that game, I did really well in that game, I was on podcasts for that game was great. But it got fumbled, and I kind of just assumed that Unlimited was going to end up similar and didn't pay up much mind. Now, being wrong is something that happens to me all the time, but I haven't had a more incorrect assumption in a hot minute. That game's doing ridiculously well. They just had a planetary qualifier, which is like a relatively high-tier competitive event, with over 600 attendees in Prague. Holy crap. So, after a couple days, our biggest local store just happened, the same one that I had the recent Netrunner tournament that I did a video about, actually, just happened to announce that they were going to have a qualifier and expected triple-digit attendees. So I thought about it. I don't really know anything, but that's never stopped me before. Sure, let's fight 100 strangers. This led to about 2 weeks of learning an entire new game meta and card pool. My agenda was to identify a straightforward archetype, learn its lines to the best of my ability, within reason, and scope meta matchups just enough to not faceplant myself. I wasn't aiming to, make top 8, crush them out, and say, I'm better at your game than you are. I just wanted to show up and, actually make a thing of it, right? In this genre of game, the simplest plan, if you're unfamiliar, is usually some flavor of aggro, which maps to my tastes anyway. You can see the aggro mid-range control triangle there, the classic. I wanted to play something that was going to just try to beat their face in before their plan could even really happen. Now, the SWU Competitive Hub website helped me scope out which cards were good in aggregate. I would look up a leader, see if they had any competitive history. If they were absolutely of the dumpster, I kind of ignored them. But otherwise, I sort of used that as a bunch of guiding principles to building a list that made sense to me. Initial testing led me to the aggression cards, the red ones, shocker, and then also Command Green had a lot of big-ass dudes, just really big, chunky guys, and both of those really appealed to me at first blush. I also had to grapple with not having a full playset of everything, because LCGs have spoiled me. TCGs, CCGs, whatever you want to call them, kind of tough on that front, and that's gonna come back into play in a little bit. Now, deck building in SWU is sick, but it's also very different than a lot of games like it. I'm not going to teach the game here, but in a nutshell, just the interesting parts, right? You pick a leader, your ID, who can be played as a unit later in the game, guaranteed. You don't have to shuffle for it, it's just on the table. And it gives you access to 2 of your card colors for deck building. And then your base, which determines your 3rd color, as well as your health total. There are exceptions to how this works, but that's the gist, right? Playing out of aspect, out of color, is expensive, and you will rarely ever do it unless it's just a card that wins you the game. Units are typically the bulk of the deck. They're going to fight in one of 2 theaters, either ground or space. These arenas rarely interact with each other, and both can hit you in the face. They both route to your life total. So, scary stuff. Resources are selected from cards in hand. You're typically never going to use them for anything else once committed to the pile, meaning you make sacrifices. Unless you like plot cards, which I do. This will also come up later. And then last, you need to balance the deck out with the right amount of events and upgrades. Seriously, don't skip them. 50-card deck, 10-card sideboard. You can change your sideboard after the first round, make it work. I quickly learned that value means something different in SWU, or more accurately, I'm really bad at evaluating value in a game that I don't know. Early on, I identified Saw Gerrera as a potential means of trading up on every exchange. As you can see, what you do with him is you attack with a unit, it gains 2 power, and Overwhelm, which is trample for magic heads, basically the leftover damage will carry through. But then after completing the attack, that unit dies. I was like, hey, that'll trade up, that'll stick damage every time I do it. That sounds great, that's gonna be the bomb. Except this is a game with gated draws, and card draw is not plentiful, so you can't really spam enough dudes to overrun their board, and playing guys on curve just to blow them up kinda sucks. Especially when, there's a chance they have a bigger guy than you, and then the whole plan just kinda stops. I am actually pretty happy with the saw brew that I came up with, and I'll share it in the next slide, but it's not what I took to the PQ, as it just wasn't testing well into decks with bigger guys than me, or any kind of control whatsoever. Here is the saw list. This is Ghost Dog, because the way of the samurai is to charge straight forward, or whatever they said in that movie. I had a lot of fun with this. This was fun to put together. There are some tricks in the sideboard to deal with folks like Lando. We'll talk about that in a minute. But really, this whole thing is just play on curve, play aggressive, win on turn 6 or turn 5 if you can, turn 6 if you have to. But you'd really rather not go that long. The big note that I'd give you is add more copies of Zaitan Maj. I just literally didn't own more than one. So you should do that. You should take that. You should take the initiative to go first next turn aggressively. I literally just couldn't make the deck any better. And that was also a contributing factor to me not bringing it. Cool. That's Ghost Dog. Moving on. Well, crap, now what? So I wasn't going to deviate from the aggro plan, as I did not have time to learn anything more involved than just send it. Other aggro plans, like Yularen in a red base, or Chewie in a blue base, were better, but needed cards I just didn't have, and probably couldn't get in time, or, I just didn't want to spend the money on more pieces. Lando Lake Country was super strong. A lot of people were saying it was top 1, even. But his popularity likely meant that counters were going to be out in force. I wasn't super keen on playing, the big meta thing, and then just getting bonked. And then I discovered Vader Yellow. And I really liked Vader Yellow. Why Vader Yellow? Real talk, he's just really straightforward and plays a lot of commons. It was the best deck I could figure out that I could build something very close to, the actual lists of. Most of Vader's game plan is spamming shifts in space, which is typically the less populated arena, and then running them over in 6 to 7 turns. The finesse comes down, or really 5 to 6 turns. That's actually not even entirely accurate. 5 to 7, let's call it. The finesse comes down to ordering your attacks versus unit plays and ID ability, and then knowing when to quit early to claim the initiative so that you can go first and hit them with a big unit right off the rip. Your ID ability, if you didn't look at it in the last slide, it lets you make a tie token, a little 1/1 guy right there. And then all of those get buffs from various things that you're playing, and then they buff other things, and then your space board eventually just becomes completely unassailable when you win the game. Turn 5, when you have 6 resources, can be difficult to play, as you have several amazing plot cards. My favorite, you saw Garandon in the last one, which gets rid of a card in their hand. Lurking Snub Fighter exhausts one of their guys before they get to use it. Chancellor Palpatine protects you on the ground. All very, very, very good. And you need to choose them and sequence them carefully, but beyond that, really, playing the deck is just, haha, funny ships go burr. It's not that hard. I found the game plan surprisingly easy to get into, and surprisingly effective in the test games I was able to get in. So, that's what I decided to play. This is Star Vaders, which, by the way, is a game you should look up. It's an excellent deck builder. Star Vaders, I have a bunch of notes on my list here, and most of them are very self-critical. The first one, Barrel Roll sucks. Barrel Roll also sucks in the sideboard. I should not have slotted it. I literally took it out on game 2 of every single match out of the sideboard. Took it out, replaced it with another card. Also, Arrest was meh on the day. I don't know if I even played it once. It was just never the right card. I resourced it most of the time. Galen Urso was the GOAT. Every game where I had Galen Urso, I think with the exception of one, at the very end of the day, I won. Galen Urso is absolutely an all-star. Your damage nearly doubles with this guy on the table. It's absolutely amazing. I Have You Now was too cute. I should not have done that. It was really funny, but it never mattered. I slotted it in one matchup, and even then it didn't matter. It didn't show up. Garandan should have been in the main deck, either for Barrel Roll or Arrest, probably Barrel Roll. 3 copies is vital. You need Garandan to show up. You need plots to show up, and more plots, more good. Lastly, I only had 1 copy of Craving Power. Please, for the love of God, slot 2 or 3 of them. You need more. It's an amazing card. You should absolutely play it, but I only own 1, so I only played 1. Don't live like me. This is just what I had. Otherwise, though, the deck is kind of standard. I'm not going to get into all the pieces. That's not why we're here. And then the day arrived. I packed up my deck box with the Vader deck, stuffed a Netrunner playmat into my backpack. This is the Plutus mat that I got recently, and pulled up. This was honestly not a great day for me to play card games. I roughed up my voice at an outdoor venue the night before. You might even hear a little bit of that in my voice right now. So I chained Ricola drops the entire day. I was not actually sick. I made sure. Don't worry. I wasn't putting anybody at risk by showing up. I also realized that this was the first event I've been to in years where I knew literally no one. And 106 strangers plus staff and volunteers doesn't replace actually having a crew to banter with between rounds. I was kind of on my phone a lot between things. I did meet people to chat with. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, not a ton going on in that front. Not a big deal. I knew what I was getting into, but I definitely underestimated how much of my enjoyment of events is the people, right? I knew that already, but like, then you see it and it's different. Boy, Star Wars fans love their fancy doodads. I saw some of the bougiest, like, accessorization and everything on the... They were in full fashion. If people weren't in team jerseys, they were in different outfits. They were using all sorts of fancy bits, Etsy, thousands of dollars of Etsy product. I already knew that from Star Wars Destiny, but I felt almost out of place just playing with, like, very normal stuff. That's not a criticism. I'm impressed at the dedication. So I'm going to stop bearing the lead. How did it go? I made top 32! Huh, that's not terrible. All right, let's get into what actually happened. So round 1, I played against Mother Talzin. And if you look at that ability, you'll see that basically says, use the Force, kill one of your TIE fighters. Well, crap. Okay, that just undoes my ability all the time. That's not good. I won. Okay, well, round 2 was Darth Maul. Darth Maul says, use the Force, deal 1 damage to a unit, that kills a TIE, and 1 damage to another unit. Oh, crap, that's twice as bad. Genuinely, actually, the worst. Surely I couldn't win this one. I did, actually. That was a genuine surprise. Round 3, Vader Mirror. Okay, well, this just comes down to a skill diff. I got blown out. I didn't stand a chance. I'm going to talk about this one more in particular. Round 4, Colonel Yularen. Remember how I said I wanted to play Yularen because it was sheer aggro? Yeah, Yularen is a slightly faster aggro deck than Vader. I did not win this. He had initiative twice. I had initiative once. He outplayed me too, and I made a play error in one of those games that definitely hurt me. Yeah, he just outpaced me. I lost. That's how it goes. Round 5, Avar Chris. Remember when I said I did research? I didn't do enough research to know who this was. Half the cards I saw, I'd never seen before. I had no idea what was going on in that game. I did manage to win it, though. I still don't really know who Avar Chris is. If anyone wants to tell me who this is, I would appreciate it. Round 6, Obi-Wan. This was... honestly pretty rough for the other guy. I don't have, like, jokes to make or anything. He had a bit of a tough go. Super nice dude, though. And then round 7, finally, is Daedra, which is the control deck du jour, and an absolute terror. I lost this one, and I have more to talk about with this one as well. This was actually a really fun game to end on, despite it being the matchup I was dreading the most. So let's get into some details, numbers, and other nerd stuff. I think I only had to win one more game to make top 16, but strength of schedule math is arcane and mysterious. I could be wrong. I might have ended up in the 20s. I genuinely don't know. Some of the strength of schedule numbers they were using on Melee, I'd never used Melee before. Legitimately were just, like, new to me. I didn't really know what I was looking at. That's a guess. But point being, I was kind of on the cusp of, like, placing really, really well. But I'm pretty happy with top 32, honestly. The only round where I felt truly doomed is round 3. Inikin knew the deck back to front and clearly put, probably 10 times more reps than me, if not more. And then showed me, during and after, how to actually pilot the thing well. And then helped me identify play and deck improvements, both in terms of, like, on the table and the card slots themselves. There was a ship in particular that she was playing that I was not, that was just straight up better than some of the stuff I was running. And I'm actually going to bring that up again later, too. I told my wife that I actually felt pretty good. She wasn't there, but I was, we were texting. That I felt pretty good about winning round 7 if it was anyone but Daedra. And then sure enough, here comes Daedra. There was a round, actually, I think it was game 3, so, like, the deciding game that locked in top 16 for my opponent, where I played Garandon, called Hyperspace Disaster, which is a space sideboard wipe, missed, it wasn't in hand, and then immediately got Hyperspace Disastered post-draw, which was extremely funny. He legitimately was like, I feel bad. And I'm like, no, that is card games. This is why I'm here. This is what I need to see. I need to know what the game is about. We were cackling. That was one of the most fun games of the day. We had a great set. And remember how I mentioned Lando was considered tier 1? I didn't take a photo of this, but you can find the history of the thing. That counterplay was so heavy in that field that none of the Landos made top 16. I dodged a bullet. If I had gone with the, like, most obvious route on this one, I would have been cooked. Let's talk about actual important bits, though. The community was super nice. Everybody I played against was welcoming to a new player that they didn't know. Several of my opponents were happy to chat, helped answer questions, were patient with me, reading cards. They gave me useful info on the game meta and beyond. I got a really great first impression of the SWU community all around. Really cool people. Several folks told me that my level of play was well above what a month should have resulted in, but, I mean, they didn't know my history, right? Like, I put a lot of that on the strength of the deck, first of all, and my having played far too many card games over the years. This kind of game is not new to me, I just don't know SWU, right? Special shout out to Inikin and her wife. We hung out the next day playing Twin Suns. We didn't all get to play in the same game. We actually played in different pods for a lot of it, though I did play with Inikin. I took first, she took second in that particular game. We had a really good time. They even surprise gifted us a playset of that ship I mentioned earlier that I wasn't running in my Vader but should have been. Y'all rule. We're gonna hang out later before we end up like having to move and everything. Like it was a real blast. I was so glad to meet y'all. If you end up seeing this, y'all are sick. So, was it fun? Will I go back? Is SWU my new hyperfixation? Is this a SWU channel now? It's complicated. SWU is a fun game. I greatly enjoy sealed, draft, etc. I'm not sure I actually like high-level Premiere all that much. Where I enjoy competitive Netrunner to the point where I'll do comms for it and show up to stuff and like do all that. And I don't really know if I like Premiere on the high end a ton. The rules in the card pool aren't the issue. I actually enjoy the game a lot. It's more how coin flippy a game like SWU can be, combined with the sheer amount of games you play in a full day of best of 3. It's very easy to look at your play and then find like, oh, well, that just didn't go my way, but it didn't go my way twice. And it's like, that isn't actually the situation, but it's a game where it's very easy to feel bad. I felt fine at the end of the day because I went in knowing that I knew nothing, and I left knowing more than I did and went positive. And I'm pretty happy with my performance and my outcome, but I think that if I really delved into this hard, I would get to a point where I feel bad about my performance more than I feel good. Because I know myself and I know how I am with competitive games, and I typically need a little bit more, I don't want to say agency, because the game is very complex and very interesting strategically. But the sheer amount of variance in a lot of cases can feel a little bit iffy. Then again, a lot of people said that about Destiny, and I'll defend that game to the death. I legitimately think that Star Wars Destiny was like a really strategic game despite having card draw and dice. So I think maybe if I put in more time, I'll change my tune. But as it stands, I found the game kind of uniquely fatiguing that way. Also, like, Twin Suns is why I'm here, and Twin Suns is by far my preferred format. It's the one I intend to stick with long term. I've always liked multiplayer constructed games, and it has been literal years since I've played a great one, which SWU is. If you see more SWU on here, it's probably going to be Twin Suns related, and I cannot emphasize enough how good of a time I had. Like, there are new precons for Twin Suns, and that alone is like one of the most fun board games I've played in ages. I really, 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 really like Twin Suns. So I will be spending more time with SWU players. I'll be glad to get to know y'all. This was a really fun time. I just don't know if like you could expect to see me at the top tables of Premiere. I don't think that's where I'm going to be. And that's fine. I'm really glad to have had the chance. I'm glad to have placed how I did. I'm glad to have met so many people. And I'm glad to have gotten to really explore the game more. I had a really good time. However, I will have to return to Premiere, because this is the sole game on this planet in which I can play as Werner Herzog.
Isn't on the air anymore. It isn't on the air anymore. Here comes Honey Boo Boo. Boo Boo. Here comes Honey Boo Boo.